Neil from Essex here, inviting you along on one of my daily rituals. Well, most every day, I take a couple of minutes, get away from my desk, and go take a lap around the store. And that's where a lot of these YouTube videos come from. But on my last lap here, I saw a lot of things that I thought, that's really cool, but doesn't quite justify a whole video. So today, I'm gonna take a walk around Essex here and see what is new and interesting.
Essex, a helping hand with your land.
So first up is this cool New Holland tractor. Now this is a mid-sized machine, but you notice here that it has a front 3-point hitch on it. Front 3 points are cool, right? On most every machine in Europe, kind of unusual here in the United States. When you do see them here, typically it's on really big machines, things that have, say, butterfly mowers and that kind of stuff on them. But this tractor here is actually a municipal-owned machine, and we're starting to see setups like this a lot more with our townships because it gives them the ability to drop something, an attachment here on the front, say a big snowplow or a blade for winter work, and then easily be able to set that off and then set something else on here, say like a flail mower or a small boom mower, in order to do their spring chores. So that front 3-point gives them some extra flexibility, and that's cool. Another thing I like to see here too is this Del Marino flail mower over here. You know, we talk periodically about cool setups that go out of here every once in a while. Things where salesman spends a little bit of time with you and comes up with the right application where maybe a little bit unusual attachment really works well for a particular application that you have. This is one of those. So this is a Kubota 3902, one of their standard L series tractors with 2 sets of rear remotes coming out the back. And in this case, these are actually used. So often people buy these things and don't make good utilization of them. In this case, it's gonna run these 2 functions to swing the mower off to the side and be able to tilt it here as well to reach over a pond bank. So I think that's also pretty cool. Over here is our remaining pile of Wolfridge log splitters. And you know, you've seen these kind of pop up on our socials a lot here lately, and I chuckle a little bit about the degree to which we've gotten unusually excited about a wood splitter. When we first looked at this line and said, who on earth is gonna buy an $8,000 to $23,000 log splitter? And my goodness, are there a lot of you. We've sold in the neighborhood of 125 of these things in the course of just a year, and we still struggle to get enough inventory out of the factory. They're cranking these things out as fast as they can, but we still have a waiting list for a lot of these machines. So some of the common ones we're starting to have in stock now, 28Ps and that kind of stuff, you can walk into our store now and pick up, but we're still custom ordering a lot of this stuff and learning that there's a market out there for things like firewood conveyors. It's been fun for us to get involved in a new product segment that's got a really cool supplier and a really pleasurable set of customers to work with. This tractor here has an interesting story. If you kind of pay attention to the, let's call it, interesting economic challenges that there have been lately, if you keep your eyes open, sometimes you can find some opportunities in these things. And you're gonna notice here, if you look around Essex, there's been a lot more, say, used equipment floating around here. We've been a lot more active in buying machines from people that they're looking to sell, or also picking up repossessions and that kind of stuff a lot more often. This tractor here is one of those, actually, and you look at it, the thing here looks brand new. In fact, we got it with only 15 hours on it, and it came out of the fleet of a rental company that went out of business, and we were able to pick it up. And when you buy stuff like this, it only has a handful of hours on it, it is still so shiny. You don't save a lot of money as a new buyer, but enough money to make it worthwhile, right? If you can come out with an extra $3,000 or $4,000 better than buying a brand new one, why not take something like this? Kind of shook loose and created an opportunity with something with such little hours on it. So we'll probably find a couple more of those here as we walk around today. You can see weather patterns in the equipment that sits behind our stores. We're kind of walking here through the area that things are set up, new machinery set up and ready to go out to customers. And if we look back here in the yard right now, there's 2 Krone ECTCs pivoting disc mowers and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other disc mower conditioners here. They're going to be headed out to hay fields here shortly, right? The weather's starting to warm and that hay ground is going to be coming up and becoming productive here really shortly. And so thus you look back here in our yards and what do you find? A whole pile of disc mower conditioners on their way out. Both this TD tractor and the baler behind it here, I think, are a little interesting. We hear a lot of conversation with customers about the cost of farming or the cost of any of this equipment anymore, right? Even we're often shocked sometimes anymore at what some of this stuff now costs today. But very often too, we only see people ever shopping the most deluxe models that are out there, right? Everybody always seems to want the features and the functionality and the productivity that comes from the latest and greatest, but is frustrated by the price tag. But there continues to be equipment that kind of breaks that mold a little bit, and that can be seen in a tractor like this, right? You can still get a fairly basic tractor even in two-wheel drive, right? And save a lot of money and still have a machine that's gonna get that work done. Or in terms of the baler behind it back here, a lot of these companies still make economy-oriented, or what they call a utility baler, that may not have all the bells and whistles of the latest ones, but can be 30 and 40% less expensive. So sometimes I feel like we don't always open our eyes up to the full possibilities of what's offered by all of these companies, because there's things at many price points, and oftentimes we're kind of wired to gravitate towards the latest and greatest and the most deluxe options. You may not have known, but there is some equipment that is almost exclusively available basically just at Messick's. For a number of years now, we've partnered with Amish and Mennonite shops that manufacture some equipment that is sold through us as a distributor that you're generally not going to find in other places. One of those is this mini baler right here. This looks like a regular New Holland small square baler, but it has its bale chamber rebuilt in order to produce small bales, in this case about 8.5 by 11, like a sheet of paper packed into a little bale. Those are the ones that you often are going to see in, say, craft markets, pet food stores, and that kind of stuff. And it's really neat to be able to see the customers who have created a new business around packaging these bales a little bit differently. Going along with these small balers are also systems to take large bales and loosen that hay up so that it can be fed into one of these. So you have the benefits of, say, running a big baler out in your field, bringing that bale back to the barn, and then having it broken apart to repackage it into small bales. So there's a full line of equipment here offered at Messick's in order to kind of make a business around small, real small square bales. Now, we were talking about deals and opportunities a little bit earlier, and here's another one of them. So this is actually from a highway mowing contractor that went bankrupt, and we went in and bought several of their tractors, 5 of them in fact, of these L3901s, coming through in a configuration that's really suited to that kind of customer, right? Cheap ag tires on it, stripped down machines with nothing on it because they're just pulling a rotary cutter behind them. We're going to take these tractors through our shops, in a lot of cases throw some new tires on them, service them, clean everything up, replace broken headlights, taillights, and then we throw a loader on them too, and ultimately have a tractor that's going to be 30 to 40% less than buying a brand new machine out of this series today. So when you look at the Messick's website right now, we have close to 35 tractors under 60 horsepower in stock, and a lot of them I'm pretty excited to have going into the selling season because I think they're going to make sense for a lot of people. You may or may not have seen these tires before. These are called Tweels. It's a airless tire that still can ride. You can see how it's flat down here at the bottom and compress. Oftentimes airless tires ride terribly and give a really rough ride, which is super unpleasant on something like a zero-turn mower. These are interesting in that they give you that airless ability, still having that kind of cushion there. But the thing that's always the turnoff about these is their cost. They are extremely expensive. But the one thing that's interesting is to notice that a lot of these are run by commercial landscape companies, and these tires really last a long time. So it's an expensive tire investment, but oftentimes you can run that set of tires on the life of 2 to 3 machines in order to get years of wear out of them and kind of, make them worth their money, because flat tires burn time. My fun stuff video is turning into the deals video. It's the beginning of April, and for us, what happens here at the beginning of every April is all the machines that we put out on snow rental come back to the store. So Messick's has a number of customers that have a need for machines, say 3 or 4 months out of the year, where they're just going to sit out in a parking lot and clear that parking lot of snow if it happens to fall that year. What that creates for us is a whole fleet of machines that were out of the store here for 3 or 4 months, might have had 30 or 40 hours put on them, but come back with some nice depreciation in order to make that machine attractively priced. In many cases, those machines are still considered new, so they're going to sell with brand new warranties and financing options, but be a couple grand less money for just having a couple of hours on the meter. So we're standing over here in Rental World, and I think this seeder is worth talking about, not because the seeder itself is all that interesting. We've done a pile of videos on these now, but because this is a really interesting piece to consider for rental. A lot of times having the right tool for the job makes a big difference in the kind of result that you have at the end of it. And a lot of times some of these attachments can be really expensive. In a lot of cases, we keep a lot of these things in our rental fleet. I seed at my house regularly, unfortunately. And when I take that seed and just run it through my cone spreader, through my broadcast spreader, toss it on the ground, only a small fraction of it will germinate. But running it through this attachment, I'm gonna get great germination and a really good result. Now, this thing costs $14,000 and I use it maybe once a year, and it's way too much money to have sitting around, right? But being able to come in and rent high quality attachments can give you great results. And if you do have a need for something like this, it also creates right priced equipment for you possibly to come in and buy, right? So something generally will get 2 or 3 years of rental use on these things and then be able to sell them out at about a $4,000 discount that makes it a lot more affordable for a small landscaper than probably can't afford to come in and pick one of these things up brand new. Now, out to the right-hand side of our flagship store here in Mount Joy is a stone lot of almost 5 acres of equipment. You can see here, there's a lot of machines lined up that frankly need to be organized. But I think the one thing that stands out here to me more than anything is that this is kind of like the first time that I'm seeing proper selection, right? It's hard, I get tired of going back and talking about COVID nonsense all the time, but it's hard to explain the degree that supply chains and availability has really been hosed over the last couple of years. And it's only now that I come out here and see a little bit of everything. So things like this Kubota RTV 520 that we're walking by right here, it has been 4 to 5 years before we've had those in stock and available. Just now are we starting to get enough inventory that you're starting to see this kind of full selection again. And that goes for compact track loaders. Some models of excavators have been that way. You know, we see a lot of that variety coming back again that we just haven't seen before. But yeah, I mean, check down the row of booms out here, right? Machines in every size and cabs and open stations. Yes, there's some gaps in here still, but it's much, much better than what it's been before. This tractor I think is really interesting and one that more people should be aware of, right? This is a New Holland Workmaster 95. It's a 95 horsepower poultry tractor. How many 95 horse tractors do you see that are shorter than I am? This machine is made to go into a poultry house, and those that typically are gonna have a little bit lower ceilings, and the birds are out and the equipment, the feeders are raised up in the air. This is gonna be able to drive through that poultry house and process and help clean out the litter. Now, I look at this and think, okay, yes, poultry tractor, we sell them every year, that's a common machine, but what other applications are there where these things make a lot of sense, right? We deal with a lot of use sometimes when it comes to challenging hillsides or difficult mowing situations. I think of one customer I have that mows the sides of a landfill, right? You could go out to a machine like this and have the horsepower that you need to pull a big mower, but have a lot of that weight down low that helps it be really stable. So cool stuff, right? We look outside of our blinders that we just typically see the normal tractor. There's some really unique stuff out there for specialty applications too. Another thing that makes me happy walking down this direction is oftentimes down here you're going to see all of these New Holland disc bines standing up on end. And oftentimes we have struggled when we come here in the springtime in order to get all of these things set up and ready to go so that when it's time to go to the field, somebody can drop a pin and pull one out of here. And this season, finally, the guys are able to start to make some progress on that. So there's a long line of equipment now that we're starting to try to get to the point that it is field ready rather than sitting here packaged up, waiting to be put together. Cool set of tires on this tractor. Bet you've never seen these before. If you come into any of Kubota's distribution warehouses, sometimes you will see tractors sitting around with this set of tires on them. This is a machine that's manufactured in Japan, and when it comes here to the US, they put on this really small set of low-profile tires so that this can drive into a shipping container. Now, they don't normally come to dealerships that way. Most of the time, there's a final assembly factory that's gonna go through and configure this machine for us with our selection of tires and a loader if we happen to want it. But in the case of this tractor, I had an extra set of tires here, and I needed a machine with no tires in order to use up the spares. And so we had a machine here arrive in this way, right? It continues on its little shipping donuts here as it makes its way to Messick's. We'll pull these off, put regular tires on, and then we have to return these back to the factory again. But it's a lot cheaper just to ship these small tires around than it is to, say, throw away extra sets of wheels and rims and everything. Obviously, if you tried to drive this machine like this, you would rip the four-wheel drive out of it because the rolling radius between these tires wouldn't be right at all. So usually you see warning stickers around on these things telling you not to engage the four-wheel drive. We'll take a walk out here through the big ag lot. It's become almost unusual anymore to see a lot of big ag equipment around because of the cost of this stuff and the degree of customization. A lot of these things are kind of customized and built to order for specific customers, but you'll find some crazy stuff out here, like the Stegelman roller. Now this is to go out and roll a field, but I think it would be hilarious to try to roll my lawn with it sometime. Probably won't ever happen. And I'm always super impressed by all their tillage equipment too. I mean, just a ton of iron in that stuff that is super, super impressive. As we keep going around here, you're gonna notice a lot of the big pieces from Krone that we get out of Germany. Big harvesters, the ECTC pivoting disc mowers that we were looking at earlier. These crust busters come out of the Midwest. These are the no-till drill that we tend to sell the most of. And you know, sometimes when you look at this big ag, iron matters, right? And you know, we talk about applications where you want weight and you don't want weight. Well, this is one where you do. These tongues have a ton of weight in them, and then you put these weight kits on top of them as well, because ultimately you want to have 500 pounds sitting on top of each one of these coulters cutting down here into the ground. So cool stuff with a lot of meat on it. Sometime we're going to do a video here on technology when we look at things like air seeders. When you're putting down expensive seed into the ground, you know, precision and germination rates go a long way to profitable crops. They're cool. And the coolest equipment that Messick sells, I think, are the self-propelled sprayers. The amount of technology in these things for GPS guidance and precision in these nozzles is absolutely fascinating to me. Things that are going to know where they're at down to an inch on the planet and are spraying chemical into very specific predefined places, because you know that machine, when that tank is full, will have $4,000 to $5,000 worth of chemicals in the back in that tank. And so putting down as little as possible and only putting it in the places that it needs to be is really important for somebody's profitability when you're working on razor thin margins. So cool stuff. Another unique piece here that you don't see anywhere else will be things like these Big M's. Krone's Big M is about the most productive hay mower that you're gonna find out there on the market. And super specialty equipment like this, man, are they hard to find. There's only probably less than 10 of these sold in the entire country every year. But Messick's is the servicing dealer for these kind of up and down through the Northeast. We need to do a video on used equipment deals here sometimes, because I think there's some stuff out here that's really attractive, actually. The interesting ones would be things like that New Holland Workmaster 25 and the Boomer 40 over there too. You know, sometimes again, when we kind of go back to that pricing conversation that we were having earlier, we overlook sometimes more basic equipment. And New Holland's line of compact tractors, they have a lot of stuff in that line that is not as deluxe as what's offered by some other companies, and therefore a lot less expensive. So looking on the used market right now, used pricing, kind of comparable stuff to what we would have around. A 25 horse used Kubota sells about the same price as a 40 horse used New Holland does. So, you know, by opening your eyes to maybe some other brands that might not always be at the top of your list, sometimes you'll find some deals. Right down here is where all of our Powersports stuff is parked. And we regularly will trade like some really cool high-end Can-Am and Polaris stuff. It's not like our bread and butter, but we can sell these things easily oftentimes, and they get traded in on tractors and stuff quite a bit. You know, one of these things is now $35,000 for a new one. And this used one here, I believe we have in a little over 20. If there's any market that's changed a lot here in the last couple of years, my goodness, is it Powersports. This business is off 70–80% from its COVID high, and the pricing of stuff now has become shockingly affordable now that the market has softened so much. So there's deals to be had now. If you were looking 4 or 5 years ago at this kind of equipment and kind of got turned off by the options that were out there, my goodness, have things changed. This broom I think is really cool and unique. You'll notice here that there's an engine sitting on top of this with a quick attach plate back on there. Oftentimes we talk about, your third function kits and the amount of horsepower that's actually available to drive things like hydraulic motors out on the end of your loader, and point out the fact that there's not as much power there as what you think there might be, right? It's really hard to be able to run things like brooms on a small tractor because the hydraulics just aren't powerful enough. There are alternatives though, right? This broom you could drive your tractor into, click on it very easily with your quick coupler, and then start your engine up here in order to run that broom and power it properly and be able to go to work. So unique stuff that you probably never knew existed. So thanks for coming on my daily walk. There's cool stuff out here, right? It's always fun to see the variety of equipment that's out here and kind of some of the fun stuff that's out here, the deals that are to be had and the unique pieces that are out here in the yard. If you're shopping for a piece of equipment, we can help. If you've got parts and service needs for a machine you've already got, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at Messick's.com.